Okay, the last stages of this project involve painting your radial design, okay? So with that said, you have some choices, okay? You can do an entire color wheel. That means you can get on Google and look at a color wheel, okay? And you can paint your radial design to look just like the wheel, all right? Where you would have one triangle be yellows with dark yellows and light yellows, one with yellow orange, light yellow oranges and dark yellow oranges, etc. You may not paint an entire section just yellow, orange, red, orange. No. You're going to do tints and shades if you do the color wheel. Okay? So that is one option on your list of things that you can do for your radial design. You can choose monochromatic. Remember, that is one color plus tints and shades. So let's say, for instance, I want to do a red monochromatic color wheel or radial design. So I can do red, but I can do dark reds and I can do light reds. That means I'd have pinks as well. All right? And different stages, not just one pink, but you could do a really light pink, a medium pink, a dark pink, and red, and then maroon and black. Black and white don't count. You can use them anywhere. You can even leave areas white on your wheel on all of them. Analogous are the colors next to each other on a wheel. Okay. Triadic makes a triangle on the wheel. This one is hard to see the triadic because there's no triangle like the one in my classroom, but it would be your blue, yellow, and red, or it could be upside down, your greens, oranges, and violets. So that means you would paint your entire project with green, orange, and violet. However, you could use dark greens, medium greens, light greens, right? You could do oranges, dark oranges, peachy oranges, very light oranges, all right? With your purples, you could do dark purples, purple, light purple. Now, how do you get things light with watercolor? You just use more water. There's no white in watercolor, okay? And then the last one is complementary. Two colors across from each other on the wheel. So I would do my whole entire design with yellows and purples. It could be an option. So you'd have light yellows, dark yellows, yellow. You could have purple, dark purple, light purple. Up to you. All right? So you're going to choose which color harmony. I decided to go with analogous on mine. That is my favorite. So I chose the greens, blues, and purples over on this side of the wheel. All right? My cool colors, generally. And so the next thing I did, before I showed you, I have some of this painted. So don't freak out because I didn't want this video to be too long. You're going to outline everything in Sharpie, like I said in the last video. And then you're going to take a huge eraser. Here's my huge eraser. And you're going to erase the entire thing. Like you're going to erase off all the pencil lines. You're really going to wear down the eraser. Eraser's going to get everywhere. All right. Other things that you need to paint this thing. All right. You need your watercolors. You need a cup of water. All right. You need a paintbrush. It should be in your watercolor set. Mine had a plastic cap on it because it was brand new. So you can take that cap off and just throw it in the trash. You don't need that. It's just to protect the bristles. When I use watercolors, I first get them all wet. Now I'm only using the analogous. So I only need to get wet my green, my blues, my purples. So I'm just dipping my brush in water. You can't see that on the camera. I'm dipping my brush in the water and then I'm adding it to my color just to make it wet and let it soak a while I'm thinking. All right. I'm also going to get the black wet down at the bottom because I'm going to use the black in the colors, very little bits of it to make my shades. All right. You can see that I dragged paint over here already on the lid. I use my lid for mixing. So I have my greens, my blues, my purples, and I can intermix them. Like I can make a teal by mixing together my blue and my green and make a teal. I can make a blue violet by mixing together my blue and my purple. Okay? Those are options for you on analogous. On any of them, you could add dark. All right? To add light or to make something lighter, you're just adding more water. So let me show you here over here on the paper. So here's blue, right? Blue paint. If I want it lighter, I just dipped my brush in the water and I'm dragging it down. Like now I have a tint, so you can barely see it on the page. So that would be my tint. If I want it darker, I use less water, okay? And if I want it darker yet, I could add a touch of black to it. Over here on my palette, I'm going to take blue paint. I'm going to find a clean spot up here by my orange. I'm going to add a touch of black to it, a little bit more, doing a little bit of mixing here. Now I don't want it so black that I can't see it. And now I've got a dark blue. Okay, and I can use that on my wheel as well. I want to see a variety when you use colors. All right. Other things that you might want to try. Table salt. I got my salt shaker from the kitchen. Table salt works. It does cool things with watercolor. Another option is rubbing alcohol. This is 70%, I don't know how to say it, isopropyl rubbing alcohol. It was in my medicine cabinet where you keep peroxide and alcohol, rubbing alcohol. You can't use peroxide. Peroxide does not work. And the alcohol you drink, don't do that, okay? This is for like cleaning a wound, if you have any of it. It is optional. Another optional thing you might use is plastic wrap. You can see that I have a piece of plastic wrap on here, okay, on my project. I'll show you what it does. Another thing you might want to have on hand is Q-tips, if you have any, okay? So Q-tips are something you could use, as well as your colored pencils. I pulled out colored pencils in analogous colors, colors that I had, and I grabbed my white. And yeah, I could have grabbed my black too. You can't see the white on the white paper, but I have my white pencil as well. All right, let me get this stuff out of the way. I should play music in the background. All right, here's one that I've got going. And I'm going to show you some things, some really cool, sweet designs of techniques, okay? So the first thing I did is I'm going to pull my plastic wrap off. You can see what plastic does. It's really cool, all right? It's really hard to fit this underneath the camera. But the first thing I did is I went with colored pencils. And I played with my colored pencils, and in the center of my design, you can see that I did lines. I also took the white pencil, and in a white area, you can't see it under the camera, I drew white polka dots. Okay, and I pressed really hard and I colored in little white circles. And honestly, sometimes I was like, did I do that section? I'm not sure because I couldn't see it. Here I did blues and greens and just made some lines. Here I did some linear designs. So I can go through my project, and in areas I could use colored pencils as well. I think I'll just color in this whole entire thing. And I am pressing hard. Whatever I do, I have to press hard. If I don't press hard on this, it's not going to resist the watercolor, okay? I just colored those in blue. You do whatever you want, but I'm limited to these colors because I chose analogous, all right? So with that said, let's paint an area. Okay. Gosh, this is hard to get under the thing. I guess I'll have to paint from the top. Okay, so over here, let's pull our paint aside. On the other ones, you can see that I did purple. So I'm doing all of these little, I don't know what that looks like. I don't even want to say what that looks like. But I'm taking my purple watercolor, and over here, I'm going to take my purple paint, and I'm going to slap it on really quick. So this is a really cool technique that you could try. These techniques are not mandatory. What is mandatory is that you paint it radial, meaning if you paint one area, you do it really quick. You know, and you make it match the, not really quick, you make it match the other area the exact same. I use salt in the purple. So I sprinkled some salt in my hand and I throw it on top, whoa, a little too much, on top of the watercolor while it's still wet. That's the key. It won't work if your paint is dry. So up here, I have to work really fast with salt. And I can't touch that now because I put salt in that area. So I'm slapping some of that, and I'm going to pull some, I pulled black at the bottom of mine, so that I have a darker purple, okay? And then I took my salt shaker and I sprinkled it on, okay? And then I just let it sit there. Obviously, you can't paint on your bed or the carpet. You need a kitchen table, you need a counter, you need a desk, something that you can get wet with watercolors. All right, I'm gonna zoom in and show you so I can move on to the next one. That is salt, okay? So in this area, I'm gonna decide all the way around, all of those areas, I'm gonna paint purple and I'm gonna shade it. So I have a darker area and I'm sprinkling salt. Here's another one. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera. It's not. Let me tilt it. It makes little snowflakes. What happens is the salt absorbs the color And when it's dry, the salt shakes off and it makes little crystallized marks on your paper. Here's another one that I did. Yeah, the glare. You can't really see it. There, you can see this one in the black area that showed up really good. Okay, so that's what salt does. The key to salt is you've got to do it while it's still wet. So I had to put the paint on really fast and throw my salt on. Okay, immediately. Sometimes it doesn't work. It is very unpredictable. Okay, another thing that I did, I said earlier that I painted or I drew little white polka dots on here. Okay, so I can take my blue paint. I always put some in my lid because I never know how much is on my brush. And I'm going to quickly fill in this area. I'm saying quickly because I'm on camera. Sorry. I'm like, come on, Cheney, be fast, be fast. I'm going to fill in this area. And what's happening is it takes a minute and it starts to show up, but you get those white polka dots that I drew on there earlier. They're going to dry. It's going to dry and it resists where I put the white down. So you can't really see it. So that those little white spots, they're starting to show as it dries. Okay, so here's some all the way around, little white dots, little white dots. Okay, you can really see it on that one, little white dots. So that's an area I can do. Now, this one that I just did, that is still wet. Okay, so I can't paint the middle of that or around this right now, or it's all going to run together. This purple's still wet, that blue is still wet, so I'm going to jump around my wheel and paint somewhere else, okay? This one I did before. So let's make a yellow green. I need some more greens on here. Let's make a yellow green, and I'm going to paint that yellow green, okay? That looks kind of yucky under the camera. And so all the way around, I'm going to add yellow green right there, a different green, okay? I got to be careful and not to do the one that I did before. The colored pencil, I think what's happening, the way it looks yucky, is because the colored pencil that I put on there before, I used purple and then I used green. It's kind of melting into the paint a little bit. So maybe I should have left that white, but it's too late. Okay. Another thing I want to show you is saran wrap. Saran wrap is so cool, but again, hard to work. All right, so that one's still wet. Where could I do it? This one's dry. Okay, so this section's dry. I'm right-handed, so I'm having a hard time here. Okay, I'm going to get some green paint, and I'm going to put green paint on my palette over here. Now, what I'm going to do, and again, I have to work pretty fast, because if you put the saran wrap on while it's dry, it doesn't work. Saran wrap is plastic wrap that you would get out of your kitchen, you know, with your aluminum foil and stuff. I think press and seal would work too, but although I've never tried it, you know, that clear press and seal stuff. So this whole entire section, I'm painting with green. I push it around. I paint really quick. Quick, but you got to stay in the lines. So it's like you got to find that happy medium. Hopefully that's still wet up there, because this is a big area to do saran wrap with. Saran wrap dries. Saran wrap kind of gets on everything. It's hard to control. So this is not a project you're going to finish in a day. Don't do this last minute. I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to slap it on there. Okay? You can kind of wiggle it around. And then you just let it dry. Now what's going to happen here, you can see it already happening. If I can tilt it right. The paint gets caught in the plastic. Okay? And where the plastic is wrinkled, it pops up and it lifts the paint off. So when it dries, it ends up looking like a rocky wall. Very cool effects. All right. The last one I want to show you is with the rubbing alcohol. You may not have rubbing alcohol at home, and it's okay if you don't. I'm going to pour a little bit in the cap, and I'm going to set the bottle aside so I don't spill. Okay, so there's my rubbing alcohol. Now, if you don't have a Q-tip, you could use your finger, although if you have a cut in your finger, it kind of hurts. You could use your paintbrush, but you'd have to wash and dry your brush off. Maybe you have another one at home. If you're a girl, maybe you have eye makeup brushes, or borrow one from mom that she puts her eyeshadow on with. You could always use those as paintbrushes, but please ask. All right, what color am I going to do here? Let's go with blue-green. So mix in a little blue. I have a lot of green right here anyway. So we're going to go blue-green. This is my favorite. Okay, little blue, little green, make a blue-green color. I've already put some colored pencil here. So I'm going to take blue-green paint and I'm going to paint in this entire thing. And then again, while it is still wet, like I said, it would help if you had a second paintbrush, but I'm going to use the same one just to prove to you that I can do it. Okay, I'm washing my brush off. I have my cup of water up here. And I forgot a towel. I'm going to use my jeans. Okay, I'm going to stick the paintbrush in the rubbing alcohol, and then I'm going to touch the paint. Look what that's doing. Can you see it under the camera? It takes the paint and it pushes it away. Let's get close up. Again, I'm doing polka dots. See what it did? It like pushes the paint. It looks all purpley blue under the camera, but it has some really cool effects. I'm going to draw some lines in it as well. I don't want to have just dots on everything. Okay, so that section's done. Wash my brush off before I paint again because it's got alcohol in it. And I'm going to paint the next section. So, what'd be a cool thing to do? It would be cool to put on some tunes, put in your headphones, put on a movie, and sit and paint for a while. I'm going to give you a couple weeks to get this done because it's going to be kind of time consuming. Plus, you got to jump around. Dry my brush, wash it, dry it on my jeans. Dots, random lines. In that area with the rubbing alcohol. It's gonna look like a candy cane. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so that's another effect. Now you don't want to do effects in every single section, okay? Now let's go back to that saran wrap and pull that plastic off. See how that's looking. Ooh, pretty cool. All right, it happens pretty fast. You can see that I did this area and I let it dry and then I jumped over to this area. Now I'm probably gonna go over here. I gotta touch this and see if it's dry. It's dry enough, so I can paint this green all around this. And that blue, that's dry enough, okay? You don't have to paint every single section. Now that doesn't mean you leave a lot white either. You gotta have a balance. I wanna see darks and lights. I just spilled alcohol all over my project. I wanna see darks and lights of everything, okay? On top of your project. I wanna see areas where the colors that you choose, you have darks and you have lights, okay? But it'd be okay to leave like that little bit white if I wanted to. I probably won't, I like color. But this area here is gonna be very time consuming to paint because look, it goes all in this area. So if I had drawn a line through here, it would have separated it for me. I could go back with a Sharpie and do that. I could separate this and paint this section one color and that section another. And then as I go around, I could rotate them, okay? It's just something to think about. All right, I want you to upload your projects in 2 places. I want them uploaded in Schoology to turn in, and I also want them uploaded into the media album so that everybody can see it. I want it loaded in 2 places. That's part of your grade. If you only turn it in, you're going to lose some points for not sharing with others as part of your portfolio grade. I want to point out to you the saran wrap, when I put it here, see it kind of got into the purple area and it made the green run. It's okay. You're not counted off for that. Okay, it's a watercolor, meaning watery, things run. If you don't have the effects at home of salt and saran wrap and rubbing alcohol, you will not be counted off for it. That is optional, but it is kind of cool if you try different effects. I know you at least have colored pencils, so you could do that where the colored pencil would resist the color. All right? Email me if you have any questions.